1995. In a small, forgotten church tucked away in a quiet countryside, something happened that still haunts people to this day. A statue, a miracle, or a warning. This is the story of the bleeding statue. It was a quiet Sunday morning. The locals had their routines. The elderly Mr. Bianchi sat in his usual pew. The children ran up and down the aisles during the sermon, and the air was filled with the scent of incense and old wood. It was just another day at the Church of St. Lucia. That was until Mrs. Amelia Rossi crossed herself before the statue of the Virgin Mary and gasped, stepping back in horror. 2 large drops of blood fell from her eyes. At first, she thought she was having some kind of vision. Maybe it was a trick of the light, some splash of red on the white marble. But when she blinked, the drops were still there, thick and glistening. Screams erupted. People stumbled back from the statue, knocking over candles and sending the room into chaos. Mrs. Rossi stumbled out, overcome with a sudden wave of nausea and dizziness. She needed to get home, to get some rest. Maybe then the disturbing image of the bleeding Madonna would fade from her mind. But sleep offered no escape. The woman's panicked face swam before her eyes. Droplets of blood falling, falling, falling. All night she heard the sound of dripping water, even though it was summer and the rain had long since stopped. The next morning, she went straight back to the church. The sight that greeted her brought fresh screams from the townspeople who had gathered. Streaks of thick red liquid ran down the statue's face. It looked like tears of blood. Some said it was a miracle, a sign from God. Others called it a blasphemy, an obscene joke played by someone with too much imagination. But as the days passed and the bleeding continued, fear replaced skepticism. Still, nobody could figure out how the blood was getting there. The statue was made of solid marble, cold and unyielding. There were no tubes hidden inside, no way for anyone to have rigged it to bleed. The church elders decided to investigate. They locked the church, barring entry to anyone, including Father Gabriele, who had been reluctant to interfere with what he believed was a miracle. When the sun rose the next morning, the church was empty except for Father Gabriele, who was to keep watch over the statue. He had agreed reluctantly, but now he understood why. Looking upon the rows of blood-soaked bandages, he felt a chill. It wasn't paint, and it wasn't rust. This was human blood. When samples were taken for testing, it was found to be type AB negative, extremely rare. In fact, it was a perfect match to a man who had gone missing in the same region a year earlier. His name was Pino Torreggiani, and he had been declared dead after his boat was found overturned at sea. His body, however, had never been recovered. As the investigation deepened, the blood continued to flow, appearing every morning on the bandages wrapped around the statue's face. Then, just as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The statue remained silent. The church was opened again and life returned to normal. To this day, the statue still stands in the church, a silent witness to the mystery that continues to baffle scientists and theologians alike. What do you think happened in that church all those years ago? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to hear more terrifying stories from real life, subscribe to the channel